Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to Of Nature and Mind. I'm your host Jacob, here with my co-host Jackson,
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it
and
going?
our little special guest Warren.
Thank you for having me, everybody.
I love you, Warren.
So on today's episode, we're going to be focusing on our Hawaii trip that we took this past summer. It's going to be a bit of a two-parter. On this first part, we are going to be talking about our actual trip, what we did, our experiences, that sort of thing. And on the second part, we'll be focusing more on nature and conservation. So, this past summer, we were originally planning to go to Glacier National Park in Montana, but I did a bit poor planning, and I couldn't find us a reasonably priced place to stay. So when I saw the group trip was falling through, I was like, maybe I'll just do a trip, me and my girlfriend. But then we broke up, so I was like, okay, me and the boys are going to Hawaii.
That's so sad.
So then I texted Jackson, let him know. What were your thoughts when I hit you up about this trip?
I felt a little bad, to be honest. I mean, Hawaii's really cool, and we did Utah and Maine, and I was expecting a summer trip, but not in these circumstances. But you were super positive about it, and I'm like, Hawaii with all of our friends, like, you don't have to convince me. I just need to get the money. That's what I thought.
Yeah, but even then, it was pretty cheap. Like our Airbnb for 6 nights was like $180 a person.
Yeah, I think after the way we travel, maybe if I have kids and I'm an adult, I'll appreciate resorts more. But like the cheap Airbnb, like low budget trip weighted, I like it.
Now, Warren, this was the first trip you ever did with any of us. Like, again, kind of like how me and Jackson were when we first took the trip to Utah. We're in the same kind of friend circle, but we didn't talk super loud or know each other super well. You were kind of in the same position for this trip.
I think I heard about the Utah trip and almost went. I can't remember why I didn't go, but there was some reason I didn't go. And this time I was like, I'm not missing out on this. When am I ever going to go to Hawaii again? Like, Hawaii is awesome, but I guess I was like, I have like family all over Europe. So I was like, well, that is probably where I go if I myself is going to go on a trip. But Hawaii is for sure on the bucket list. So I was like, this is a great excuse to go to Hawaii and see all sorts of cool sights. And I kind of didn't fully know you guys like that well, so I kind of wanted to increase the bonding experience with everybody.
You know, it's funny because we're really close now. You're one of my best friends, and I felt like I always really liked you. Maybe because we just hit it off so quick. It helps that you're a Newcastle fan. We like soccer. We like video games. Warren kind of, like, he's going to on our next trip. You just fit right in, to be honest. I'm happy you came.
And so we ended up going to the big island of Hawaii, and basically we fly in, get there at like 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just kind of running around, find a motel, sleep. Then it's first day there. Got like a couple hour drive because we're going all the way down to the southern tip of the big island, just like 15 minutes above an area called South Point. That's where our Airbnb was. And that just drive there, the first impressions got was just breathtaking going down that scenic road. Like, what was like going through your head when we just being there? Because I feel like Hawaii for a lot of people is like this kind of dream location that they always want to go to, like a bucket list kind of location, like Warren just said.
Well, I didn't know what to expect. I honestly I was excited to go to Hawaii, but I had this weird interpretation that the water was not blue, and which it is blue. Did you
think it was pink?
No, I thought it was black. Like, you know, when you go to Virginia Beach and it's not very nice.
So like super like murky.
It's really a pretty dark blue, and it's not the typical resort place. It feels like you're on an adventure. There's rocky cliffs. There's
the big island, isn't it? At least it's out of all the islands, I believe it is the least commercialized.
But yeah, it was super. Kind of felt like I was on Lost. It was really pretty. Like the way we drove on, because it's an island and it's elevated, and we drew a pretty high elevation along the side of the island, and you could just see the vast Pacific Ocean out And we stopped for a few pictures. We had to stop. We were like, okay, we need pictures.
I remember I was driving and I was like, oh, pull off. Yanked the fucking car.
Yeah, it was. I want to go back. That's all I'll say.
What about you, Warren? First impressions?
I think it was different from what I expected because I expected the resort image of Hawaii where it's like palm trees everywhere, and then outside of that you got your like grassy areas and your little tiki huts, and then when you actually land in this like not very resorty area, it was a lot more like rocky and volcanic looking, and there were like your palm trees, but you expect white sand beaches, and not many of those in the area either. Black sand as well. It's just kind of like it's kind of weird and cool to see that it was very different from what you.
Did you prefer it that way? Like, was it a nice surprise or?
I think I preferred it because, as maybe we'll talk about later, when we got to the resort area, you see that what I thought it was is maybe. I've heard on the other islands it's not as artificial, but on this island, what I thought it was, for this island was artificial and not actually the reality, and it felt more like Disneyland than it did a real thing.
That's an interesting way to put it, yeah. Our side of the island was kind of perfect.
Yeah, I loved the area we stayed in. I mean, we were joking in a group chat the other day about buying land, and they're like, let's build a house. I want to be in South Point. Sustainable farming.
Yeah, just go build a farm. It's beautiful there.
Now, how about the Airbnb? Impressions of the Airbnb. So, describe the Airbnb to everyone. It's a porch. There's a door on the right side of the porch that goes to a bedroom with a nice little double bed. That's where Warren and our buddy Jimmy stayed. The Jimmy that went on the Zion, Utah trip. On the left side, there's another room that has a little single bed and another double. That's where Jackson, our friend Reyes, and our friend Eric slept. On the porch, there was also this couch with a nice little mosquito net, and that's where I slept every night. And in between was this little walkway where we had our hot plate, our sink, and then a door to our bathroom and outdoor shower. Just like real small Airbnb. Just a nice little hut. To me, it was perfect. I was happy.
It was barely. You could barely consider it a. It wasn't really indoors. I mean, there were indoor sections, but it was like if you were on any normal porch, but you decided to put a bed and a shower on it. It was straight. We just lived on a porch. It was outdoor. I think we were on a farm. Like there was bananas. Yeah. There was fruits.
So the Airbnb was it's this family's basically their little sustainable farm that they just raise crops on, and they have this little kind of guest hut that they rent out on Airbnb.
He was super nice.
Yeah, our which I'm most likely gonna put a link in the description to the Airbnb. It was amazing stay. They were super nice. They brought us like fresh fruit, like 2 or 3 in the mornings that we were there. It was delicious.
Super kind people.
So, a little bit. Warren, what'd you think of the Airbnb?
I thought it was pretty awesome. Maybe I'm weird, but some parts of me feels like, at the moment, annoying parts of trips are the best memories. And one part about the Airbnb that I thought was the most hilarious thing every day, like a constant sense of like humor, was the shower being like negative 5%.
I liked it.
I thought it was hilarious. Every morning you wake up and hear someone like screaming because they're like dying in the shower, and then you jump in there and you're like screaming, running around because it was cold. Like I'm not joking, cold.
Yep. Yes, it was.
I don't know. I liked it.
No, that's what I'm saying. I thought that's my favorite part. Is just the most memorable like of all things.
It made you get used to a cold shower, and I ended up enjoying it by the end of it because I don't know. I just felt more refreshed and like
it is pretty refreshing.
I had some level of pride that I felt fake toughness that I could survive a cold shower. It was nice.
It's just the Airbnb also just gave us a couple good memories, even though we didn't really stay. Obviously, we didn't stay at the Airbnb that much. Like we had your little workout sessions that you were leading everyone in during the Airbnb, and that I would also refuse to be a part of because I decided I wanted to relax. So I'd be sitting in the chair sipping a Coors while you guys are doing push-ups in front of me.
I would like to point out that some of these workout sessions were mid-drinking Coors, and it did not go that well for everybody involved. One of our people, Reyes, think.
Oh, he didn't do so well, did he?
No.
He never does well.
He was drinking the heaviest out of any of us.
Yeah.
Trip wasn't really like that though. I think.
No, it was not a big drinking
No,
trip.
'cause
It
we
was mainly
couldn't.
just at the Airbnb when we were at the end of the day.
It was much less drinking than I honestly thought, going with a bunch of dudes, my friends, and all that. It was gonna be heavy drinking, but it turned into more of like a kind of
It
like.
was a wholesome kind of trip.
Yeah.
You don't get heavy drinking with me on these trips. You get
No.
bodily harm and danger.
Yeah.
Fair.
Although when we first saw the Airbnb, we were there just like you said, we weren't there for long. We immediately went to was that place still considered at South Point? We started to drive around and explore.
South Point is very specifically that area of the island. So South Point is the southernmost tip of the US. Like Key West in Florida is the southernmost point of the continental US, but South Point in the Big Island of Hawaii is the southernmost point of the all US territories.
Gotcha.
And so that was 15 minutes south of our Airbnb. And on that first day, after we settled into the Airbnb and everything, we went down to South Point because in kind of my planning, it was labeled as this place that you can go cliff jumping. So I wanted to check it out. Even though we didn't go jumping off the cliff that day, we definitely did. But went down and we saw our first sunset there. And it was such a beautiful first sunset for being there.
Yeah, we went back there many times. I think about it to this day.
It's so
It was what was that? What do you know what that place was called that we went? The cliff.
It is called South Point.
That is okay, but
yeah, it is South Point.
yeah, it's the most memorable part of the trip for me because it was funny. Coincidentally, I just got done reading Unbroken, which is the World War II book about the guy who crashed in the Pacific. So I'm just looking out at the endless ocean and I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, that guy got lost out there. It's so vast and just it's all out there and there's a few other people there and they're just sitting and nobody's really talking. You're kind of just you're just blown away by it. You can see north for miles. There's
we saw the windmills.
Oh, there's windmills, pretty plains.
No, but we'll talk about the windmills when we get to the last day of our trip. We saw some windmills in the distance. They got into me and Jackson's head a little bit.
Yeah, they're close enough.
Day one was a very relaxing day. We just went back to Airbnb, went to bed. And then it was 5 a.m. and I started banging on everyone's doors, waking them up for day two. I was making everyone get up for a nice little sunrise at a black sand beach. It was, I'm probably going to butcher the name, but it was,
One small tidbit about day one. You have to imagine when we're standing out there at South Point, to paint the picture, when you look all around, there's 50, 60 foot cliffs for as far as you can see. And you have to think we're a bunch of guys from Virginia, so we're basically on the other side of the world as far as we've ever been. Just at a whim, we just felt like going. So it was just a kind of a special experience being there watching the sunset.
Yeah.
Giant cliffs you don't see around here.
yeah.
The other side of the planet. It
was.
It was an interesting experience. Yeah, on to day two, I guess.
Day two, there was a black sand beach. I want to say it was only 30, 40 minutes away from the Airbnb.
That's pretty close.
On more towards the southeastern side of the island. Again, probably gonna butcher the name, but I believe it's pronounced.
Good luck.
Yeah,
just how it's spelled.
Punalulu or something. I'm not even I'm embarrassed by trying to pronounce that, but. First time ever at Black Sand Beach, it was beautiful, especially watching the sunrise come up. I do have to say the sand was not fine grained, so it was kind of stepping on gravel, but it wasn't. It was still
you got over it.
I got over it. Jimmy liked to complain about that a lot though.
I appreciated all those small things because it made
it unique.
It wasn't a beach trip. It was kind of bit of an adventure. Everything, like Warren said, we're from Virginia. The only beach you see is Virginia Beach. It's kind of lame. It's so lame compared to Hawaii. And I remember you got us up before sunset a little bit.
Yeah.
Woke us
Or
all
sunrise.
up. Yeah, sorry. And then we drove down and We must have been there for like 3-4 hours. It was.
Oh yeah, because even after sunrise, we just like started exploring like the I guess if you're facing out towards the ocean, the left kind of bank, there was this brush, and you can see some rocks jutting out in the distance. We're like, we can probably get to those.
Yeah.
So we go and start like go through the brush, climb along these rocks, and then we just find this path, which turned out to be a trail, but we didn't know it at the time. And we just start hiking along the coastline on this like just lava rock path, watching the waves crash into the shore and all. It was.
You had your camera, right?
Yeah, my camera during this.
Yeah, because the
I
rocks.
got a really nice photo of you two actually, when I was posted up somewhere. I believe Warren was standing on top of a rock, and it looked like you were pushing the rock from the way that you were like posed.
I feel like I remember this. This whole landscape, to kind of paint a picture, like when I was talking about earlier, it didn't look like what I expected, like white sand beaches, super like the Bahamas, tropical. We're talking like alien landscape, like jagged black rocks as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
And waves smashing up against them, and we're all standing on these different kind of like mini teeny little peninsulas. I don't know the right word. And I think Jacob's on like the third one, and we're each on our own one, and I'm on a huge rock taking pictures.
It was very, like, jagged's probably the right word. It was really cool for pictures. The waves were, I mean, we kind of spent maybe 70% of the trip just looking at cliffs. That's kind of Hawaii, to be honest. It captured my attention, you know, and we went on a long walk. I think that's one thing we probably fell into a trap, because everything about Hawaii, the terrain is so interesting that we just kept wanting to see more.
We just kept walking.
More. We just kept
got hypnotized by the landscape.
It was a very relaxing experience. I know you and I went off and took really nice pictures, and I was really happy for you personally, because as much as I enjoyed Hawaii, I know you probably appreciated the nature. I mean, I like nature, but you're a photographer, so you must have been having a field day just pointing at things like, oh, we must go here, we must go here, we must go here.
I'm just gonna apologize now, and us three plus two of our other friends are gonna be doing a road trip this summer to California. I'm just gonna apologize now. I will be pulling us over. I will be pulling that car over multiple times to take photos. Just be ready for that.
I like the view.
Yeah.
It's less effort to not take a picture and just stare at it.
Yeah. After the sunrise at the black sand beach, though, and everything, that's when we started to experience a bit more of the crazy antics of Hawaii. We stopped to get gas on the way back to our Airbnb. And I'm going to let Warren tell this, since you were the first one who interacted with Charlie. Tell us who Charlie is, tell us how you met Charlie, and tell us how he ended up in the back of our truck.
Well, if we're gonna be realistic and like brutally honest here, Charlie was most likely a homeless drug addict on the side of the street.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I was really scared how you were gonna word it.
So
Not safe for work kind of thing.
We kind of frequented this gas station near us because there weren't that many stores around, because it was like a little small town. It's very different than Virginia. I mean, maybe we'll get into that later. It's not like everything they have here near DC they have there. It's much smaller, more rural.
Northern Virginia being a lot, basically just little suburbs outside the city.
Yeah, you got a couple small stores. That's about it. But basically, we pulled up, and I go in, me being weird. I probably grabbed some bag of shrimp or who knows what, because I don't know, or a sandwich filled with Spam because we're dumb. I don't know. We figured that was a good idea. But we start walking out, and I'm walking back to our pickup truck, and this dude comes up to me and is like, hey, you want to drive me to the town that's like 15 miles down the road? And I was like, I guess we better ask these guys. So I walk this homeless, possibly drug addict man back to our car, and basically
You offered a lot of money.
He did. Apparently he said he'd give us $100 to drive him there, and we all kind of...
And a bag of cookies, remember?
Yes.
A bag of cookies.
We all hopped on board and basically were like, yeah, well, let's do it. Turned out being a great idea because we found cool spots there, but
Okay.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, um, there were 6 of us, only 5 seats in the pickup truck, so usually one of us had to sit in the bed. So I believe it was Jimmy and Reyes who were sitting in the bed with Charlie as we drove basically a little bit past our Airbnb to what seemed like it was almost like just a little rest stop type of shopping area. It had a gas station, grocery store, and this is where he wanted us to drop him off. Which this the biggest benefit to picking Charlie up and dropping him off was that he recommended us our breakfast location where we went to almost every single morning after that to get breakfast. Again, only like 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from our Airbnb. And then whose phone did he borrow? Charlie needed to borrow someone's phone.
It might have been
it was either Reyes or Jimmy, probably.
I think it was Reyes. He borrowed one of our phones to make a call. And the call was extremely shady.
It was weird, yeah.
Okay.
At least it just seemed really off because he like tried to call, his friend didn't answer, so we left a message.
I mean, didn't we call that person back?
He called us back.
Called us back.
Yeah.
So basically, I think he gave me like $40 randomly, which I would later contribute to group funds for whatever, because I just thought it was a fun experience.
Didn't he just walk up to you and like stick out his hand and
He
then
did.
like?
He said pick. He said pick.
He started giving. Oh yeah, he did. You're right.
He was like pick.
He put our hands in. I was terrified. I was like,
So basically, Charlie walked up to Warren, stuck
like
out
an old
both his
decrepit
hands, and said pick, and Warren just put his hand underneath one, and then he dropped $40 in the one.
I was like, I felt bad. I was trying to give it back to him the whole time, but he's like, if you keep telling me this, I'm gonna give you more. And I was like, whatever. So he said he'd give us 100.
What is that?
I don't know where he gets all this, but we got there, and basically he's like, oh my god, you know what? I don't have the 100 to give you, but I'm gonna call this guy who does drywall that I know.
Oh, it was.
And he calls his friends like, just talking on the phone. He's like, hey, I need to talk to you about the drywall.
So confused.
It was just such a weird experience. And then he gives us a bag of cookies and he walks away.
He called us back though and said he didn't know who that.
Yeah. The
Charlie
guy
was.
that
So
Charlie
how did he
called,
get his number?
the guy that Charlie called us back, and we were just like, yeah, we picked up a guy named Charlie, and he said he needed to call you about drywall. And the guy just did not know who Charlie was, why he was calling about drywall, or anything. It was just a really weird situation.
Fun fact about Charlie, he was telling us stories about his daughter is a producer on the new Avatar films out in LA.
Supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah. He's telling Jimmy and I this. That might be where he got his money from.
Maybe.
He also seemed decently well known, because I will point out that we did see him again.
Did we?
We did.
Kind of. We were driving out of the gas station, and we're like, oh, it's the same gas station we picked him up from. He was back there like 2 days later, and we yell out to him like waving, and he just does not remember us.
There were people that appeared to be locals who came and gave him like food and drinks, and were like, "Hey, Charlie, what's up?" So he seemed to be like known amongst some people.
They were very
there.
kind around there.
Yeah.
Such a nice area. I mean, didn't we? Okay, so I'm pretty sure after Charlie took us there,
We got
got food,
and
then we went back to the South Point Cliffs.
We went back to our Airbnb, and then we went to the cliffs. I don't know why we stopped at the Airbnb, and then we went back to South Point.
Yeah,
and this is
where the fun begins. Pretty much. Yeah, because remember we saw it day one, and I was blown away. I'm like, Jacob, we must come back. This is the coolest.
Yes.
And then we finally came back. The cliff jumping. It was the first day was cloudy. I was trying to ignore it. I was like, if it rains all week, I'm gonna be so sad. But it was really sunny out. There were people there. It was a good time. I had never went cliff jumping before. It was a bit daunting. I thought I'd be able to do it, and you kind of look over the edge like, oh, this is a lot. But it was fun. Once you jump, it's...
So, depending on if it's high or low tide, the distance can vary, but it's around I want to say about 30 feet of a drop going off this cliff, and then it's really cool because they have this ladder that then goes all the way down the cliff that you can climb back up. So being the wild man that I am, of course, I'm going first. And, oh god, it was so much fun. You just have so much time free falling before smacking into that crystal clear water, which also, like, you can see to the bottom from the cliff, but like when you're in the water, you realize like, oh, I just dropped 30 feet, but the bottom of the ocean is like another 40 below me. Like, it is deep and it is just crystal clear. It is just a really popular spot. Like, it was packed almost every time.
Everybody there was so kind and just courteous.
Mostly, it was a lot of locals too, just like fishing and like talking to us. It was so nice.
I think the first time we went, it was probably the least packed of all times.
That's true.
And we were a little bit concerned because we just saw a rusty ladder and we were like,
it is,
what's going on? So I think me and Reyes might have climbed halfway down the ladder and jumped from there and realized, oh, we're good. And
the ladder sways too, and it's quite it's really hard on your arms to climb up it because it's not stable.
Honestly, the hardest part of jumping, the cliff jumping, it wasn't getting yourself to jump, wasn't swimming in the water, it was definitely climbing back up.
It's like, do I want to do this again? But I love swimming, and you just jump, and it's a weird sort of calm after the chaos of flying down, and you're like, oh, let me fix my feet, I don't want to hurt my ass, let me fix this, and then you finally land and you're like, oh, I'm okay, I'm about to do this 10 more times. But like, there's this moment in between you climb and you just look around, you see all the pretty cliffs, you're kind of just swimming in the water, and I realize I have 6 more days of this. I'm just gonna soak this in. The Pacific Ocean, it's all that way. This is the greatest. Man, day 2 was, I want to cliff jump again. It was such a good time.
And then I also decided to go diving off the cliff.
That was insane.
I have a video of Jacob because Jacob used to swim. Still got it.
I never did diving.
Yeah, so
besides just the dive at the start of a race, I just did freestyle and butterfly.
He goes in a dive like this. It looks so good, but like, it's such a far drop that his body weight starts to swing him.
I overshot the dive a little bit, so my legs started to like go over my head, and so I didn't nail the dive too perfectly, but it was still at a nice enough angle that I didn't hurt myself.
If anyone knows who Jeff Hardy is, you'll know what Jacob's dive is.
We don't want to understate this as well, by the way. This was not like, oh, he just did a little dive there. I pencil dived in, and the bottom of my foot felt like someone slapped it as hard as they possibly could. This man face dived, and if he effed that up, that would have been like red bat, like pain, like
there's his neck.
Pain.
Definitely could have messed something up.
Well, your eardrum.
I also. My eardrum felt a little weird. But I realize now that was probably because. So, a couple like a month. No, yeah, it was like a month and a half earlier. I got my ears pierced for the first time. So I got 3 piercings in my left ear. I did this dive and my eardrum hurt, and then I realized, oh no, I knocked 2 of my 3 piercings out of my ear. Which that becomes something for day 3 that I worry about. But yeah, I knocked my piercings out.
Worth it though.
It was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
How many times did you jump, Warren?
Probably a good few, honestly.
Eric only did it once, right?
Some people were more scared than others, depending on like swimming ability and like.
Jimmy, I love Jimmy. He does not like the water. He doesn't.
That's so weird.
It was. I'm gonna be real here. Like, I did it multiple times, but it was a bit scary. Like, you stand there and you're like,
but you still did it.
Oh man, that's far. And you jump, and it kind of was like okay at first, and then you really feel like, oh man, I'm falling a long way here.
Almost because it's scary, it never gets old. Because you just jump, and your gut instinct is like, this is not okay. I should not be free falling 30 feet. It's something. I don't know. I don't know if anyone listening has done cliff jumping. It was my first time. It was my favorite part of the trip. I don't know. There's just a safety net of water there. You get to do something really fun, and I just love the ocean.
Now, after cliff jumping at South Point, we went. This is still day 2. We did so much on this trip. We went to a green sand beach, which again, I'm gonna butcher a name. It's like Papakalea.
Sounds better than your first try at the first beach.
Don't make fun of me, Jackson. I'm trying here. but it's a quote unquote green sand beach, and we had to off road there. Like we can technically hike.
That would have taken hours.
Like off roading there in the truck we rented, it took like an hour to get there. So hiking there would have taken so long.
The terrain there was super suspect. There were tour guides who would take Jeeps who you could totally tell they did this every day. They got paid for it. They were good at this. Our rental car, was not a Jeep. It was a large Ford F-150, which, shit you not, when we got into the car, first thing we did pulling out of the airport with this car, we reversed. It went so loud, and we're like, this guy did not mention this at all. So we're trying to like...
every time we use the brakes.
Yes.
This became a meme.
Yeah,
honestly.
So we're like screeching through this terrain, and we need to go slow or like... Man, I paid too much money for that rental car. That was so weird. We could have just banged the car up, but we didn't. We went super slow, but the brakes were loud. We had to stop out of the car sometimes to like direct traffic.
To be honest, out of the entire trip, that was the most scared I got.
Yeah.
Because I was the one who rented the car, and like we were using an app called Turo. It's where like it's not like we're using a rental car company. It's someone loans out their car. And I didn't want to damage this person's car. I wanted to respect their property, and I was just scared because I was like, if I didn't want to fuck up their car. I didn't want to.
We were pretty safe about it though. We went really slow.
But there was just times where like the step to get into the truck would like bang into the sand or dirt, and it would make a noise, and I'd like my heart would just sink a little bit.
This also wasn't like just riding around in like grass or flat stuff. This was like 3-foot tall rocks. You're like smashing over and flopping around.
Well, there were some rocks, but it was mainly like dirt paths with.
But it's dirt paths that were narrow because there was like 2 or 3 feet deep.
I mean, we had to get out and make sure
sometimes.
Although what I really enjoyed about it, maybe it was more stressful for those in the car, but I hopped in the back of the truck. So I was outside filming with my phone. I had my bandana on because it's windy. I don't want things in my eyes. And it was super cool. It was a little off-roading experience, and you know, at that point, we just decided to do it. So I was like, you know, it's all part of the experience, as Jacob says, and we just... It was a good time. It was very fun.
One of my favorite moments on the entire trip was when we first got to this like beginning of the off-roading bit, and I think I was in the back with maybe Eric, and we were sitting like way in the back of this pickup truck, the back of the bed. Obviously, maybe a stupid decision in hindsight, but we just started going for it over these like super rough terrain. I actually think I went up in the air like 4 feet and smashed back down and like flopped around.
It was bumpy, yeah.
I flew for a second there. We were going like on such rough terrain, and after that I was like, you know what, maybe I'll sit in the back of the car and Jackson can sit in the back.
Honestly,
thanks for switching.
I enjoyed the drive much more than the actual beach. Like the beach was cool.
It was barely green. Oh no, actually
it was kind of like a darker shade of this like couch or your shirt.
Or combined. But however, the design of the beach was really cool.
That is true.
It was basically like, so on Hawaii it's cliffs, so you're at a 30 feet elevation. It sort of like sinks down and in like this, like it's almost like if it's U-shaped, and in the middle of the U is the beach at the very bottom. Mm-hmm. However, like around the edges, it's really elevated.
Just cliffs on each side.
It's like if you cut the Colosseum in half and chucked it away, but there's still an elevated area that you can walk on, and it was really nice for pictures, but the beach was okay.
It was also pretty packed.
It was.
Yeah.
It was surprisingly packed,
really
especially
packed.
For the drive we just went through to get there.
Probably just because of the tourist groups who would drive in there.
Again, though, a beach is a beach.
Honestly, the best part of it was going up onto the ridge, because the ridges were like 150 feet up above the beaches on these like narrow
that one side was super
little
tall.
bits, and people were like it was really steep. Honestly, people were like sliding down it trying to get down there, and we were taking pictures, wind blowing. It's pretty cool, honestly.
That was basically the end of day 2. We drove back, had some sandwiches. Good time.
Yeah, the best part of that was honestly just driving there.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
I would say that was my favorite day. it'll live in my heart forever.
I believe, which will come up maybe later for me, that is where I got horribly sunburned because I was stupid and ignored people's warnings. I'm one of these people who just doesn't use sunscreen, and I got to Hawaii and thought, I don't need it. Let me go through this day.
Warren, you're white.
That was a
Can't do that.
mistake later that we will find.
I mean, the next day's hike was even worse for you and worse for all of us because, I mean, we can just get into it now. But
Day 3, this was basically the first part of us exploring the Volcanoes National Park, which that was the reason I chose the Big Island, because I have this goal of trying to go to all the national parks, so I kind of chose everything in relation to the Volcanoes National Park. Day 1, we just did a couple of the really popular hikes for the park. It was like did the sulfur banks, the steam banks. Sure, they're pretty cool to see, but out of some of the other ones, it wasn't that great. The lava tube, though, I thought that was really cool. And so, like, the lava tube is basically just where lava has, like, kind of came out from the crust of the earth and gone to the surface, and then it hardened into these tubes that you can now walk through. So we went through one of them. I think it was called the Thurston Lava Tube, which is like it's like the most popular one on the Big Island, especially because it's part of the national park. Basically, walking into that is just walking in this dark cave with a bunch of overgrown vines and vegetation almost covering the entrance. Kind of made me feel like I was walking into some kind of scene from Jurassic Park.
I don't know if I think this is exposing my inner nerd, but if you ever seen Chamber of Secrets, where he's walking, you know what I'm talking about, Warren? At the very end of the movie where Harry Potter's walking through into the chamber and it's like a tunnel like this. It was exactly like that, pretty much. You just got to walk through it. It was very dark, and I remember you were taking pictures in there. It was...
Yeah, none of the pictures came out too well, though. But that was also just because people kept walking. I mean, I can't stop people, just other random people from walking while I was trying to take photos.
All those hikes were like a bunch of miniature hikes.
Yeah.
To see specific things. It was relaxing. It was fun. You got a feel of sort of what was there, and yeah, it was a good time.
I remember there were a couple of highlights in my mind. One, the first thing we did was we kind of went like different elevations. Like the first one was right at the base of the volcano, sort of like there was a huge kind of wasteland.
Wasn't it a crater?
We were in one of the craters.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Volcano.
That was really cool.
And I remember walking through this, like, you almost walk through like a jungle looking thing getting down there, and I thought, this is kind of what I imagine like a museum looking like in my head of what Hawaii looks like. And it looks exactly like what you would picture walking through this little palm tree jungle down to this volcano basin. It was pretty awesome.
Hey, on the cliff overlook of the crater, had Jackson kind of scolded me for being a bad influence.
Yeah, so there's the crater is really neat to look at. It is essentially what you'd think of. It's just a large flat hole in the ground, but you can get to the very top of it. It sort of surrounds it, and there's obviously a fence, so you don't just jump. And Jacob, being Jacob, goes to sneak over the fence, and he's laying down taking pictures, and there's this little cute kid with his mom. He's like, "Mom, look, I want to do what he's doing." And Jacob is like 2 feet from his death. He's obviously not going to die. He's laying prone, but like
there are signs that say the edge of the cliff is unstable.
Yeah.
Across the fence.
So he tries to jump through the little fence because it's not like a fence. It's like two ropes like this, and he tries, and the mom has to stop him. Like, Jacob, get the hell out of here before some little kid jumps for his life.
I just wanted a good photo, and so I just crawled to the edge. Had to get my wide-angle lens.
Jacob was a menace on this trip.
It was a good time.
For many reasons.
And hey, after National Park, we went to Kona, which is the nice little city on the west side of the island, western side. I thought it was very funny. How I mentioned I lost my piercings on day 2. I was kind of panicking about my piercings closing up. So while everyone was at the Kona Brewery, which this was a spot that Eric really wanted to visit, it was kind of on his bucket list for stopping there. I found a just like a tattoo and piercing place that were open. Bought some replacement piercings. Ran back to a brewery, and I'm telling Jackson to shove these piercings through my holes, my my earlobe before they close up. And he, what? Why wouldn't you just shove the piercings through, Jackson?
I don't know.
I kept telling you.
It's not gonna stab you.
It's just a little bit
It's
of
like,
blood.
you know how like you could technically bite your finger off like a carrot, but you don't actually.
Yeah.
I could technically put a hole in your ear, but I'm not going to.
But why wouldn't you? The hole was there. It was like
I'm
just
scared.
So there was a hole then.
It
was
didn't
like
close.
an
It was starting to close up. So then I had to run back to the piercing and tattoo place to the lady that I just bought these piercings. I was like, listen, please, here's $20. Can you just shove these through my ear? And then I just have this random lady just literally take the piercings and shove them back through the holes that were starting to close up.
We essentially just stayed at our friend Eric's a bartender. He showed me a few things at the brewery while we waited for Jacob to do his. To be honest, I didn't
Jacob things.
Yeah, Jacob things.
Jacob.
You were such a menace on this trip that like.
I just got worse as the days go on.
We slowly got more and more sick of Jacob. So when he was fixing his ear, we were like
It was like
pretty.
It was the end of day three.
We were pretty glad that we had some time away to just relax. I guess we haven't even said anything bad that you've done. It was more of like a bunch of little needles and needles.
I was making sure you
needles.
guys were on the move pretty much all the time.
Warren could probably speak.
This
for
also
more, but
was not peak tiredness, by the way. This was there later in the trip was peak tiredness. This was just like building up to the point, but it was kind of like nonstop, like here, like all the time, like on the trip. We weren't just like sitting in a lawn chair, like with a little cocktail, like sipping on it, you know.
Oh, yeah, day 3 was basically just our first little exploration of the national park and the Kona Brewery. That was honestly one of our more chill days.
Jacob and I have a goal of hitting all the national parks, so we kind of had to go.
Yeah.
Obligated. It was nice, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. The brewery was very nice at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Had some nice pizzas. I tried a few new beers. It was, you know.
And day 4 happened. Day 4, at least for me and Warren, favorite day. Best day of the trip for us.
It was a good day.
Especially for me. This brought out our inner child. For me, it started a little earlier than everyone else. I could definitely tell they were kind of getting sick of me because I was like, listen guys, we're going to wake up and we're going to go watch the sunset or sunrise at this place, and no one wanted to wake up with me. So at 4 a.m, also, as I mentioned, I was sleeping outside on like this little couch with a mosquito net. I developed a very love-hate relationship with a rooster that stayed on this family's land, and he liked to try to talk to me at 4:30 in the morning every single day. Oh, if I could have, I was ready to turn that man to chicken nuggets if I could find him.
I was also horribly sunburned at this point, just to point out.
Fair. But this was the one day I was like happy to wake up to the little rooster calling my name. Got up, and on our original drive in, we passed this one cliff that, to me, you know, always looking for nice little spots to photograph, I thought this is a beautiful cliff to check the sunrise out on. So I drove back there, hiked down, and I got what I think is like one of my favorite photos, at least, of me walking along this cliff as the sun is before coming back to wake all you guys up. It was a really peaceful experience. I also saw there was at the bottom of the cliff there was like hundreds of birds diving in and like trying to catch fish and stuff, and it was so cool to see.
I was probably good that nobody came with you because I think you had a few moments on this trip where it was probably best for you to have your own little.
I definitely have my own little micro adventures.
Yeah, you need those, right?
Yeah.
Also, you know, gives you a chance to work on your photography skills in a way that's you're more focused because nobody's around. You can sort of feel out yourself a little bit. You know, you need those peaceful moments.
Since I'm still just getting into photography, I definitely need the practice.
I mean, I saw those pictures. They were good. And you came back and we were just waking up. So it's like we didn't miss a thing. You got a little extra few hours.
Well, you missed a beautiful sunrise, but
Nah, there's a sunrise every day.
You didn't see it every day.
Just being out of Hawaii.
Anyways, after my little solo sunrise adventure, this is when I kind of tortured everyone with the trope of the day 2 hike.
I loved it.
Basically, we went back to another part of the Volcanoes National Park, and there was this trail it's an out and back trail that in total is supposed to be about like 18 miles. But it's 18 miles of flat. But it's also 18 miles of flat with no shade as the sun is beating down on you and you're walking across just lava rock. So you just got black rock around you, the sun beating down. And it's, I believe the trail is called the Punakaw Trail. I found it on, like, All Trails, if you know what that app is. And it was really cool at first, because the point of the hike is, like, you go and there's this just little, supposed to be beach with, like, as Warren mentioned earlier, it's supposed to be a little white sand beach with palm trees and stuff. We never made it.
You can see it in the distance.
We saw it in the distance.
It would never get close.
Then again, it would never get closer, which makes me think we may have been hallucinating. It wasn't that bad. But the sun was definitely beating down on us. And it got to the point where, like, Jimmy got in a very upset mood during this hike. And he like, turned back. He was like, I'm going back to the car. I'm done with you guys. This is boring.
He turned back so soon.
It was like halfway, maybe like
I was still
a little bit under halfway.
It was like, but he turned like 15 more minutes. He just had to stick with us 15 more minutes. We got to this point where there's the path takes you near the cliffs because this is on the coast of like the south eastern part of the island where the national park connects to the ocean.
Yeah.
And it was during high tide, and the waves would crash into the cliffs and just send massive sprays of water up over onto the cliffs, and we would just let it like rain down on us. And now I'm gonna put a little disclosure out here. You do have to be really careful with this type of thing.
It was fine.
Because if you it's extremely slippery, so we did not get close to the edge. And if you're not careful, like me and Jackson, we felt the water come down on us. Like we have some nice videos and pictures
You gotta
of like
plug in that video.
massive like water crashing down on us. It is forceful. So like if you're too close to the edge and it's slippery and one of those like crash on you, you could easily lose your balance. So like you gotta be really careful. But we got to this area and it was just like an hour where our inner child came out and we were just running around playing in the water. It was just so much fun.
I mean, also at that point, we sort of decided, okay, we're having fun in this area. We're taking a break, and we see out in the distance, and we sort of see the palm trees. Like maybe this is the beach. I'm just like, are we gonna finish this hike, or are we just gonna mess around in this location and then go back? And we decided we're just gonna mess around in this location, which, to be honest, was perfectly fine. It was really fun.
It was easily one of my favorite moments, was just being in that spot and having fun.
There was this cute little stone fort that was made, and we had these sticks that we were messing around with, and
we just picked up some sticks that we were using
yeah,
for
we were
hiking.
just having fun. And there was this moment where Jacob found this area where he noticed the waves kept coming over, maybe like 20 feet high, maybe, and I maybe 50 failed videos of Jacob, and we finally got one really good one where it shows the slow motion overtaking him, and then Jacob's like cheering because he finally got it after like 10 minutes, and then a second one.
Another wave crashes and sends
Jacob.
a spray 30 feet
Yeah.
in the air above me. That was a main character moment. That was such a great time. Also kept us cool from the heat beating down on us.
Yeah, because this wasn't like South Point's cliff edge where there was a lot of grassy plains, and
this was like lava rock from where the volcano has erupted pretty like recently. Like there was little to no vegetation.
I mean, Warren was complaining about a sunburn from Madeira, but this was way worse because I think we ran out of sunscreen. And I think after we must have been out there for what 3 or 4 hours before we turned back. We were out there a while.
Probably 3.
This
3
was a
hours.
long hike, by the way. I feel
was
like
just
I
a
remember
long,
someone
straight
saying this
hike.
was like 16
18.
miles or something.
18 miles.
18 miles?
Yeah.
So
Which we didn't do the entire thing, but we still probably hiked probably like 12 miles.
We're kind of condensing the experience, but this took a long time. And I was so sunburned that it hurt to have anything on me. But I kind of like made myself a little like hat and like long sleeve shirt and was like hauling out for the experience. And then finally we got past this the lava rock looked almost like orange colored turtle shells. It was so cool.
Oh, I
and
remember
there
that.
are all sorts of patterns all over it. It was like nothing you've ever seen before. I got this great picture of everybody with like giant cliffs and mountains in the background with this turtle lava rock there. But we get to where they're talking about, where there are these black cliffs with water smashing up, and there are little pools with all sorts of like sea creatures and like sea urchins and crabs and everything running around. It was and then the abandoned villages from ancient civilizations or whatever.
Oh, do you remember on the way there are these little cutoffs where you have to walk on wooden platforms so you don't ruin what's on the rocks?
That was on the other hike that we took right before that, because it
Well,
had
it was the same place,
Yeah.
but it was a left turn. There's this, I don't know how old it was, but there's like old markings and drawings of people there. It was a really nice nice time.
But another fun fact is when we started coming back, it
That was
just
so painful.
it was starting to get to us. We didn't run out of water. It was nothing like that. Thankfully, we learned from the Utah trip and didn't run out
Kind
of
of,
water.
yeah.
And we were coming back. We just started singing sea shanties. I think
Because of Eric, yeah.
Eric had one that he knew from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. If anyone listening is a bit of a gamer and played
That's how you
that.
know we were going insane.
We start singing this sea shanty. Eventually, we make it back. Actually, no, first, we passed people who were going down the path. Also, they're like, yeah, we're looking for some guys that apparently ran out of water. Did you see them? And we were like, no, perfectly fine. Didn't see anyone. I mean, we're getting kind of low, but we're not out. And then they just kept going, and then we kept going, kept singing our sea shanties, and eventually we get back to the parking
There's
lot.
no Jimmy.
Jimmy isn't there.
All
But
right.
there's a park ranger there.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, are you blah, blah. I think he used my name. He's like, yeah, your friend Jimmy said you guys were in trouble. Jimmy apparently reported us to the park rangers because he thought we weren't making it back. He thought we were running out of water and we were going to just die out there. So Jimmy was like panicking. So he took our car and now we're just stranded there.
We're just sitting down.
Park ranger was also like, oh, okay, you guys are fine.
He was kind of rude. He thought we were idiots.
Fair enough.
No, but I no one's gonna be rude to a park ranger, but we were perfectly fine. I was almost mad at Jimmy until when he finally came back. I saw how stressed he was, and I felt bad. But
Okay, so to preface this, I remember exactly what happened. The sea shanties were not until we got back to the car. We did not run out of water until we got back to the parking lot because
And Jimmy was gone and we had no more water.
we had
because
just
took the
enough
car.
water to get back. And so we were walking back and these park rangers say, are you the people running out of water? And I was in the front. So I asked them, no, but you want to give me some water? And they were like, no, you're not running out. So get out of here. So I was like, oh, okay, rip. So I kept I kept walking along and we get to the parking lot. No Jimmy's there. Then we run out of water and we're like, oh, they were looking for us. Oh.
And Jimmy's gone. Park ranger pulls up. And I mean, he definitely... He
thought we were stupid.
He was mean. He was a bit
We
mean.
were fine.
He was a little mean. But like...
Jimmy must have worded that.
I
we
also
were
have
about
to
die.
imagine... Think how many stupid people he probably does deal with.
Sure.
And he just assumed we were them. And it's like, it's fine. I can accept it.
We were alive.
We were fine. Jimmy overreacted.
He did.
So we got bored. We sang sea shanties, and he eventually came back, and we were like, "What?
Although
Why'd you leave us?"
he came back with waters, Gatorades, and large, was it Snickers bars?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
Snickers.
And I saw he was so concerned, and I was like, I'm not mad at you anymore. Thank you. You brought us food and water. I'm sorry we scared you, but he did not need to leave. He should have finished the hike with us.
The sea shanties were honestly one of my favorite memories. That's what I was saying earlier, where some of the bad times or like hard times become the best times because it's just like a fun memory. We were all like hunched in this like little rock outcrop with the sun like kind
We're
of
just
seeing
staying as
over
much
us,
in the shade as possible,
Shirts
waiting for
covering our
Jimmy to
necks,
come
our
back.
heads.
repeating like half the same sea shanties on repeat because we barely had internet and I had to like hold my phone up to get it. And we all had like a pact where when we got in the car, we were gonna start like bursting out these sea shanties that Jimmy had no idea about, just to see him like confused as hell. Because we sat there for like 8 hours singing these. No, yeah, like an hour and a half.
Yeah. Even after all this, day 4 isn't even over yet. We go get some food at a nice little restaurant in the national park, and then we're heading back to Kona because wanted to do some snorkeling with manta rays.
It was a very good way to end the day because, I mean, we'll talk about it once we get there, but the way we viewed it, we weren't actively. It was a really relaxing time. Like it was slow, peaceful. So
Basically, the way the snorkeling went was there's a bunch of different companies, and they put out these lights in the water that attract all the. I can't remember.
Plankton or something.
Yeah, plankton that the manta rays feed on, and basically you just get put on your snorkel and you just hold on to these lights because they have a bunch of floaty things all around the sides that you hang on, and you just float there and watch.
It's really nice.
And we were very lucky by how active it was that night. Like there was 5 to 6 different manta rays that night, and our guides were talking to us about them, about how they're named, how they name them, all this. And it was just, there was multiple times where they do these like barrel rolls where they swim into the water and just do large circles, or like swimming upside down catching the plankton right under us, to a point where I got smacked a few times by their fins just from floating there. And it was such a nice experience, and I would pop my head out of the water to talk to the guide every now and then, and
She was really nice.
She was super nice, incredibly knowledgeable, and just also she was telling me how like it was extremely lucky. Usually it's only like 1 or 2 on most nights, and they don't do like the barrel rolls that often. Like we had like 5 or 6, and they were just going. And at least for me, being how much I love the ocean and swimming, that was like such a surreal, nice experience for me.
I still got the GoPro, so we were able.
I do have the video still on my laptop.
Yeah, I really want to look at those. It was was I next to you?
Probably.
I think Warren was to my left, Jacob's to my right, and you're just sort of hanging on and looking like Superman with your legs back, and you're snorkeling, and man, it was so calm.
It was
so calm.
Definitely one of the more touristy experiences we had on the thing,
was.
because it was in the resort area. But to be fair, you were never gonna get that experience outside. Like we weren't just gonna swim into the water and find 900 manta rays. But they had like specific ones with cuts in their fins, and they knew exactly their names, and you could see those ones coming back, and it was a really interesting experience. They were way bigger than I expected.
Yeah,
a little menacing.
I'm gonna be honest, I've seen like pictures of other like species of manta rays, and they get even bigger.
Really? I thought they were gonna be like the size of this little table here. They were like 4 or 5 times the size of that table there.
Yeah,
they're big. Big boys.
I was thinking about it while you were talking, and man, that'd be a really nice job. Imagine you're just
swimming with manta rays every night.
Yeah, it's something about Hawaii is just so. The 3 of us are in Nova, and it's cool, but it's very intense here. It's really hyper focused on.
Everyone's focused on working.
Work.
Jobs.
I'm almost done with school, but I work 20, 30 hours a week with that. And beforehand, I was working full time. It goes so intense, and then when you go to Hawaii, it's incredibly laid back. It's
the culture of Hawaii just being so laid back.
Yeah.
So go with the flow, being so welcoming. It was just.
Their work was not their identity.
Yes.
Which is something I really don't like about here, because if I don't get an A in a class, I am super down on myself. If you go to certain areas, they don't care. They care about if you're kind or they care about what you do. They care about other things, and I really appreciated that with the area.
I'd say that was the end of day 4. It was just, given how much happened that day, we were all beat, just super tired.
We did a lot, didn't we?
We were tired before that, honestly. We were sitting in the restaurant, I think all getting drinks, and I have a specific memory of Jackson being like Mr. T, who like got like a green tea, and we were all like roasting him while we were sipping
server made
cocktails.
fun of me, and I was like, leave me alone.
But
that was the day me and Jimmy got pina coladas.
It was
so nice.
The minute we got in the water with those giant things, and they had like some kind of like slime on them. They told you not to like touch.
Yeah,
because
so you're not supposed to touch man waves, which is why you keep that's one of the reasons why you keep your hands on the platforms. 1, so you don't float away, and 2, they don't want you touching them because they have this mucus on them that helps them.
It was pretty awesome.
By touching them, you take it off.
It was a pretty awesome experience.
I'm looking at the list of everything we've done. We've done so much. I wish we had more time in Hawaii. We're already on Mauna Kea. We're already there.
Yeah. After day 4, after that, we decided to sleep in, first off.
We needed it.
And then day 5 was going to Mauna Kea, which Mauna Kea is I'm trying to remember exactly. It is the second highest, island volcano in the world.
Mauna Kea is a volcano?
Yes, it's a dormant volcano. And it is the highest mountain in Hawaii.
Okay.
Now, this is a very interesting fact, by the way. If you take it from its seafloor base all the way to the top, it is taller than Mount Everest. So some people call Mauna Kea the tallest mountain in the world because of that. Because it's like 33,000 feet.
I think it's supposed to be a very like sacred place for like.
Oh, it is.
So
it is. Yeah.
Just in the Hawaiian culture, all mountaintops are like very sacred. Which actually, this is going to be something Jackson and I will talk about in part 2 of our Hawaii discussion, is that on Mauna Kea at the top there are a bunch of observatories. I believe there are 7 observatories funded by like 11 different countries because of its very low light pollution and arid skies. It makes it very ideal conditions for studying space, but it's obviously become a very contended subject because to the native Hawaiians it's supposed to be a very sacred location that should not be industrialized and built upon. So on day 5, that was our big thing, was visiting Mauna Kea. We would drive up to the visitor center, which was 9,000, it was about 9,000 feet up, and they wanted us to stay there. They recommend about 30 minutes to an hour to acclimate yourself.
I definitely needed it.
This is where we lost Warren.
Yeah, Warren was worse than me at that point.
So what happened to you, Warren, when we hit the visitors
maybe due to some medical things I have going on. Who knows what it is? I don't really understand medical stuff. I'm not a doctor. Basically, as we were going up there, my entire body starts feeling completely tingly. Generally, that means I think that means like low oxygen kind of content going through your blood and all that. We get up to the visitor center, and I'm like lightheaded, like this, and I'm trying to be like, okay, I saw a documentary one time where you're supposed to breathe super heavily and like, or people who are trying to hold their breath for a really long time breathe super heavily. I don't know. I was trying to do something, did not help. We went up to the visitor center, and I asked the lady there. I was like, because we hung out there for a while, and I was like, hey, if I'm feeling like super tingly all over, not very good, you think I should go up? And she kind of went, no, that does not sound good. You should not do that. And I was like,
were you scared?
I don't know about scared. I definitely think like it was tingly to the point where if we went all the way up, there was a solid chance I might have been like face planting there. You would have been like, you would have been like traveling around with me like face planted there, and I was like, that doesn't sound healthy, nor conducive to a fun experience. So I was like, I'll just chill down here. There were their own little hikes there. I had my own little thing, but and then you can continue to your.
I kind of envied you, Warren, because so when we left you.
So yeah, to be clear, we then left.
Yeah,
Warren
we left
at the
Warren.
visitor center, so we could continue the drive up.
I was also feeling a bit sick,
Yeah.
and part of me wanted to stay as well, but
So from 9,000 feet to the summit, which is I believe like 13,800 feet.
I think it's a little higher. I thought.
I'm pretty sure it's 13,800.
It's large.
I thought
Point is
I
it's
had
higher.
14,000.
So we were able to take our truck up. You can only drive up yourself if you have 4-wheel drive.
Yep.
They advise us on the way up. It's dirt road. There are no railings.
It's a road. It's a lane and a half.
It's only about a lane and a half wide at best.
No rails.
And for me, I didn't feel lightheaded. I think it. How would you describe that the lack of oxygen did to me? I'm gonna let Jackson take over and talk about my driving skills.
I thought Warren was lucky because, Jacob was the only excited one about the lane and a half. I don't think we went straight up the mountain. It was almost like
it's switchbacks.
Yeah, so we were on the edge at all times, and the car is already funny, or the truck. The brakes are bad. Jacob is kind of speeding. You're going too fast for a lane and a half, especially with curves. You did slow down.
It was like instead of 25, I was going 30.
No, I feel like there was a 35 somewhere in there. I can attest. If I call up Jimmy and Eric and Reyes,
I believe it.
They're all going to say, no, that was terrifying.
I believe it.
There's a reason Jimmy drove down, by the way. And he starts blasting Fortunate Son, and I'm just looking out the window in the passenger seat like, oh, that's pretty far down, isn't it? And
like we are above the clouds.
I say it was the most calming experience of the trip, but also the most terrifying because I'm looking out at clouds I only see when I'm in a flight, like in a commercial airline. But then I'm also turning to my left, and there's Jacob just going, just speeding, way too excited, having like his psychotic laugh. And
I don't know why I never heard the Fortunate Son part, but that really pieces it all together for me because that's usually played during like Vietnam War shit, and I'm just imagining him speeding up there to like the theme of the Vietnam War.
Some context to this: in 2018, I almost died in a car accident. My car flipped 3 times, and I am not comfortable with most drivers now. I get very scared. I do not like driving passenger seats, so like when Jacob's going up a dirt and a half, all I'm picturing is us rolling down the mountain. I think I was a little exaggerated on my fear because I'm probably a bit traumatized from that car accident. But Jacob, he's a very courteous man. He decided to help me feel better by speeding on the lane and a half road.
I just wanted to get you up there faster so you didn't have to stress.
Jacob was being selfish, He was like, I'm going to have a good time regardless of my scared passengers. But to be honest...
How'd Emmy feel when she got... Emmy is Jackson's girlfriend. How'd she feel when you start sending her texts that you might not make it back alive?
Maybe this is a red flag. She didn't even seem that concerned. But looking back, I kind of regret being so anxious. Once we got to the top, it was so quiet, and I wish we were rich and we could show pictures live on this podcast of like what we're talking about, because I don't know how to describe what it's like being that high up, because once that drive was done, it was so peaceful, and as much as I hated Jacob for it, I also thank him for taking me there. It was beautiful.
There's a bunch, as we said, observatories up there, and basically the rule is you are supposed to leave within like 10 minutes or something after the sun dips below the horizon to respect the cultural significance of being on Mauna Kea's mountaintop. So that is what we were up there for, was to watch the sunset. And it was very peaceful. Like, it was light wind. We were high up, so it was very chilly. And just in every direction you look, it is just a white sea of clouds. And then just the beautiful sun slowly dipping behind, just coloring the sky orange and red and yellow. And it is just such a beautiful and peaceful sight that it is, again, one of those moments that just makes you feel small. And it's one of those grounding moments that Jackson and I really like to talk about, or at least it was for me. Just, again, a white sea of clouds below me as I'm standing on this mountaintop watching a giant fiery ball of death that keeps us all alive dipping below the horizon.
It makes you kind of care less about little things, I guess. It's sort of, because it centers you, and it's something you want to do yearly. It's those moments you kind of live for, which was why you travel, and it's why you adventure and go on vacations. It's for those moments, and it was definitely one of those. And I think also it felt like we were in slow motion, one, because if I walked any more than 1 miles per hour, I'd be so out of breath up there. So we were all, walking up there was really, you had to go really slow, and we took our time, and Jacob was able to take really nice pictures. And
that was another thing. Like, once it got to the point where, like, I want to say the sun was like halfway below the horizon, the wind picked up.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to get frostbite on my fingers. Because, like, when I took my hands out of my jacket to, like, mess with my camera, they just became numb, and I started losing feeling, like, almost immediately. Still great.
You know what was funny? When we were at the observatories, there was an employee's car outside, and on their window was a math and physics formula that they must have just written, which is kind of hilarious to me that there's some really smart people working in there, and they got formulas on their car. And I wonder what it looks like inside there. They're just... his car was there. He must have been working that day.
I'm going to be honest, and this is something that I wish I did, but I just didn't think about it at the time. At one point, I was setting up my camera. Employee walks outside and is just like taking a phone call outside, and he just looks at me and like gives me a weird look, like, what are you doing? But then he looks at my camera, and I think he's just like, oh, whatever, and goes on to take his phone call. I should have asked him, like...
You should have, yeah.
Come inside.
Such a strange
life.
life.
Look around. It was pretty cool.
Then we had to go back down, and
yeah. So as we said, like
that was frightening because the truck's brakes were a combination of the terrible truck and the squeaking, and you're going down a very steep mountain. And Jacob's psychotic tendencies. We had Jimmy drive, and what we were going back down for was because once it's nighttime and we can go back to the center at 9,000 feet. I mean, this is one thing I was looking forward to. We were just going to sit there for maybe an hour and take pictures of the night sky because you can see the Milky Way. It was, I mean, you can elaborate more because you're the photo man.
So, at first, I told them, hey, I'm going to be gone for 10 minutes to take some photos. And I run away from the car with my tripod and camera. I don't come back for another hour.
It was okay.
Yeah, well, I know you guys, like, were alright with it. Because, like, it was a beautiful night sky. And, like, being, again, the arid kind of humidity going on. It's dry. Plus, no clouds. Clear sky.
Yep.
Very minimal light pollution. Just thousands and thousands of stars. You can see the Milky Way. And it's just... Oh, I got one of my favorite astrophotography shots I've ever taken from that. It was just so beautiful to look up and see all those stars above us.
Well, when you guys were up there, I actually was doing my own thing.
Oh,
yeah, we got all of this. Like, Warren.
Warren was on his...
What? Tell us about what you did while we were on our little adventure.
Well, I was like, well, I don't want to miss out on something. I want to do something of my own. So I was like on my phone looking like, what's around here? And there was a little hike up like a ridge near me. And I was like, guess I'm going to go on that. So they were like up doing all this. But I was like 3/4 of the way up. Basically, there, if you like crossed the road driving up and went over, there was this like giant like ridge going up. And I was getting so out of breath climbing this ridge, waiting for you guys. My phone was like near dying as well while I was going up here.
Was it getting dark too? And...
Yeah, and I finally get up to the top, and I'm like a nerd, so this is the only way I can like describe this. But to me, it felt like in games there's a setting called like the FOV, the field of view.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of like how wide you can see. When I got up there, obviously it's this little teeny ridge. It drops all around, so you're sitting there and I'm looking up and you just see like sky all around you. I, for the first time ever, felt a little bit of vertigo because I was like, whoa, because there were like sheer edges on like all sides. And by the way, right after that, it's
so you're looking up.
Yeah.
So wait. So I remember the street you cross. So you're walking up this. You're climbing up.
Yeah. You walk like up a big ass.
And there's a ridge that what? Like a cliff? Like not a cliff, but...
Yeah, it kind of... Basically, you guys are, like, up here at the top. Here's the visitor center, and I'm, like, somewhere in the middle.
So you're
like,
seeing the whole sky in front.
Overlooking at a ridge, seeing the clouds and all that there. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm going to wait till sunset, because they're up there waiting till sunset, and my phone almost died, so I had to turn it off, and I was like, well, guys, hopefully I make it down here. It gets pitch black, and I'm like very aware there are cliffs everywhere. I'm just like looking up at all these stars, blah blah blah. I don't know. It was
slipped.
It was a very
taking a tumble, Warren.
I could have. It was a very interesting experience. I think it's probably kind of similar to your guys.
Like a good one,
the sun setting down in the clouds, and basically, I kind of just hung out up there, sun setting, took a bunch of pictures, met random people who also went on this hike. And then eventually, when I heard you guys came back down there, I had to like make my way down in the dark on this little ridge back to the visitor center, where we meet back at the story that you guys had.
Seemed like you had a good time doing that.
It was pretty fun. You
made the best of it.
Yeah. What'd you think of the stars?
It was pretty nice. It was very nice.
We all sat in the back of the truck, just sort of huddled up together, and Jimmy was educating us about.
I remember we had some app out that basically showed us like all the major constellations and major things to look at in the sky, and we looked up, and it almost looked like not one for one, but almost one for one with the app.
Impressive.
And it's probably the best you've ever seen because we come from somewhere that's like extremely urbanized.
Being so close to DC, the light pollution just doesn't hit.
So
stars don't exist here.
Obviously, 10,000 feet up on a mountain in the middle of like an island in the Pacific Ocean is going to be a bit different than like next to DC.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty spectacular chilling out there looking at all the stars.
That was pretty much it for day 5. It was basically just focused on Mauna Kea. Then we head back to the Airbnb.
Were we in the back of the car?
Yeah, maybe. Was it you and me?
I feel like I vaguely remember being in the back of the car, but we all kind of switched turns. But I remember someone was. I know Jimmy was on the way up. No, I think it might have been you. I think you might have been in the back of the car on the way back from Mauna Kea.
Okay.
Either way, we headed back to the Airbnb. I remember you were showing us some of your photos from the stars, which were really nice.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'd like to point out is we were talking about how we were worried about it raining the whole time. Something I noticed, maybe I'm wrong on this, but the east side of the island seemed like it was very like dry and rocky.
Yes, that is part of it. Oh no.
And the west side.
No, the east side of the island had a lot
Hilo
more
was.
rain. That's Hilo where we floated, and the west side where Kona and we did the snorkeling was a lot less rainy.
And it was very evident. Even like the vegetation and trees looked completely different on like each side of it.
Well, that's a fun fact about Hawaii is I forget how many different type of I believe ecosystems there technically are, like 16 or 18 or however many. Hawaii has like 13 of them. Like the Big Island alone has 13 of them spread around the island.
one fond memory I have is when if you're riding in the back of this pickup truck and it's like pouring with rain, somehow the pickup truck like shielded you from all the rain and just made like a little barrier. So you're riding around completely dry while it's like chucking down with rain around you, and you see like huge mountains on the side with like little nice locals houses like dotting down the entire coastline. It was pretty
The
beautiful.
back of the pickup truck was honestly some of the best memories of the trip.
That was nice.
It was very. The trip was very tiring. Sitting in the back of the truck was almost rest from it, or a nice little moment away from it. I remember back in day 2, Warren and I were in the back on the way, and we kind of bonded a little bit. And I was like, telling him this is, I don't know. I was just really enjoying the moment, and I remember you and I were in the back one time, and I was like, I love you, Jacob. It was so nice.
Back on at the end of day 7, you and me hopping in the back.
Yeah, it was so nice. It was so nice. You just get to see everything.
Basically, we were driving back on one of the first days from the cliff, and it got dark, and we were just kind of chatting about, because it was a very new experience. We had like just landed. This was our like first day was like we landed, figured stuff out. Second day was our first actual day there, and I remember me and Jackson were talking about just like what the difference is and why we enjoyed being there. And I was he kind of touched on something Jackson was talking about earlier, where here in Nova there's like a lot of pressure to be like work, businessman, suits, 9 to 5 type thing. Whereas in Hawaii, it felt like very relaxed, and you could just kind of enjoy the moment and be there. And we were kind of just having a conversation along that topic, along with stars and bumps, and Jacob going like 90 on this bumpy ass road.
Jackson looks like he's gonna cry.
I want to go back so bad. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty good seg. I want to talk to you, Jacob, about when we got back from the Airbnb. You had your little. First, I think we should provide some context on your sort of.
God. Okay.
On your troubles before this trip.
I talked to Jackson, being one of my best friends. I talked to him about a lot of stuff. So he no one else in the trip really knew about this except for him. But like I had like an epiphany kind of hit me after Mauna Kea that night, when I was just, everyone else was asleep and I was just still awake for some reason at 2 a.m. and just laying in my little couch with the mosquito net. And I just had this epiphany hit me, because like prior to this I was in a very bad place kind of emotionally. Just after my breakup with my last girlfriend, I realized it now, but like back then it wasn't as clear to me, as like my entire identity was kind of tied up in that relationship, and I just didn't really know who I was as a person anymore, and I was running from my feelings by basically working 6 days a week and then also drinking like 5 of them for just months. And then I just had this kind of epiphany hit me that I can't keep living like that. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy. And so it was a very kind of personal reflection and experience for me that helped kind of change my perspective a lot about how I just view things and operate on a daily basis now. Like how we mentioned, the culture is very more relaxed, kind of go with the flow, there's no one's in a rush type of thing. I kind of took that back with me, stopped working as much, stopped drinking as much, started focusing a lot more on growing and just trying to live like a happier lifestyle.
What made you have the self-reflection moment coming back? Was it just being happy with Hawaii? What was it though?
I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. Just being in Hawaii, it hasn't felt like any other place I have visited or gone to. It like I truly felt at home and like I could be myself, as chaotic as my true self apparently is. It just
Not that bad.
it was very nice and kind of freeing. It felt a bit like I was able to explore who I am and who I wanted to be. And it all just kind of crashed and hit me on that one night. And I think it kind of had to do with being on top of Mauna Kea and, like I said, making my problems seem smaller, and like it grounded me, and I was able to kind of.
What was your reaction to it? Like, if you have all these thoughts coming to you, was it overwhelming or was it?
It was a bit overwhelming. I definitely kind of teared up a little bit.
Was this while we were all asleep?
Yes, this is while everyone was asleep.
So this is like 2 a.m.
Yes, it was like 1:32 a.m.
Huh.
And I was just laying in the bed like thinking.
It's interesting. I just want. So did this just suddenly come on to you, or were you thinking about life? Or?
There was a lot of self-reflection going on during the trip that I was kind of doing in my head, but it was just light self-reflection because I was mainly focusing on having a good time with my friends.
Yeah.
But it was mainly like during those car rides, because we had long car rides in between locations and stuff. People would be listening to music, reading books, things like that. And those moments when we weren't interacting during the car rides, those were when I would be like reflecting.
This was
in
over
my
the whole
head.
trip.
Yeah, and then
Gotcha.
I just couldn't sleep that night, so I just did a lot of thinking, and it all just kind of hit me at that one point. That like. It just like I said, I couldn't keep living life how I had been the past couple of months.
Did it feel relieving? Like once it was done, it was like a bit, or were you?
Not really. Honestly, it didn't feel relieving, but I had like a new sense of, okay, I know I can't do this. Now that I know what I can't do or I shouldn't do, I kind of have a direction to go in that I then started, like when we got home, I started picking up new habits. Like I started reading again, which I stopped for a very long time. Started reading a bunch of books again. I started meditating. I started doing journaling and a bunch of other stuff like that. And it's all kind of culminated into who and what I do now. Like every night now I journal before I go to bed. And I meditate every morning.
So a lot of this you can put thanks to Hawaii.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much.
Or at least your realization in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Warren, weren't you recently out of a relationship in Hawaii too?
I felt like
a 5-year relationship?
part of me related to Jacob because I went through a lot of similar feelings. I'm sure a lot of people can understand this. I'm gonna make this very short because I don't want to go too long into like relationship podcast. But when you get out of a long relationship, a relationship becomes part of your identity. So when you get out of it, you don't really know who you are. And I think I kind of resonated with some of that in Jacob. And that's part of why I wanted to go on this trip and wanted to kind of just get away from it all and experience something new with new people and just break out of things that I would normally do. And that was part of the trip. And there are a lot of like intimate experiences, bonding experiences, learning about what makes you happy, what you value in life, just seeing like amazing hikes, friends, experiences, low and high, literally and figuratively. It was just an amazing experience that when you come back, you take away and you go like, that is what is important to me, not past things that have like brought me down and not things that aren't part of me anymore. Yeah, so I think that was just a part that was interesting on the relationship. I guess multiple people were going through like, getting out of like life situations. It was like a life change of course almost, going to Hawaii, learning about yourself.
In a good way,
and everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Happy I went on it.
I wasn't out of a relationship, but I became a very anxious person before Hawaii. I'm still a bit deal with anxiety here and there, but I was very burnt out and living in Nova the months before, I was probably anxious every day. I ended up quitting my job to go hike, which I'll talk about later. Hopefully we can bring Jimmy on the podcast to talk about it, but it's just something about this. I'm probably going to end up repeating this on almost every podcast we do, but there's just something about trips that's just so resetting and centering that is almost therapeutic, and it kind of brings me back to who I want to be, because you're really happy on these trips, and I want to be really happy every day. So that happy version of me, I want to stick. And it's difficult to get to stick. It's easy for it to stick on vacation because you're in Hawaii, you're going to be happy. But there are definitely things that you guys just talked about that you can take forward to learn from. I mean, like you said, you kind of just... I think I enjoyed Hawaii so much. I mean, Jacob and I now have a deal. I've set up a win-win situation for myself. Because Hawaii definitely put things in perspective for me, and it's helped. It's not a miracle cure, but I think if I go back, I'll be happy. So I set up this win-win scenario with Jacob where if my girlfriend of 3 years so far, maybe almost 4 years by the time I leave college, if she ever breaks up with me, Warren, I'm inviting you now, Jacob and I are probably going to move to Hawaii or move somewhere and make this trip a permanent thing. Make the things we talk about on this podcast.
Permanent vacation.
Permanent, whatever you'd like to call it. And I guess if not, I say it's win-win. She could be listening to this. Hawaii sounds like a bigger one, to be honest.
I mean, he doesn't mean that.
It's...
I think
I don't know.
A thing about
South Point.
a thing about these trips, and I've been on like a lot of kind of like weird trips in my life, is I think you kind of learn and grow as a person going on these trips and experiencing new things that are out of what you've seen before.
Yeah.
Like you kind of gain a part of your personality. So I think that's what's so awesome about these trips. You go and kind of gain a new part of your personality that you didn't have before, and that you will literally take to your grave.
It's a better way to word it than I did, yeah. It's kind of perfect.
It's just a very cool experience, growing as a person, growing in your memories.
Better than a $90 therapy session.
Yes.
Definitely.
I had my nice little epiphany between day 5 and day 6. And day 6, Warren decides to kick a sea urchin.
Well,
What did happen?
not worded exactly. He stepped on one. Day 6 was more chill. We were looking for beaches because particularly Jimmy, was so sick of all the mountains, and he's like, I just want to go to a beach.
He got tired of my shenanigans, and so I had a list of beaches for us to go to, and one of them was the state park, which I believe I would pronounce this one the best out of all of them. It's called Mahukona, and it's this nice little state park that used to be, I think, a small little port that they would like ship things into and out of. And there's this old rusty crane at the edge of the like water that you can like swing on. So we were swinging Jackson and Jimmy and everyone out into the water.
There were little kids there too.
Snorkeling around. Yeah, little kids were doing it too. Just jumping off. It was a nice little family place. Seemed like a lot of locals too. Not a lot of like. It definitely seemed like it was pretty much all locals and not.
It was, yeah.
And then basically it was like this concrete platform where they would load and unload stuff, but you could like jump in the water and then climb back up. Hence, Warren, please continue for us.
Basically, I went to go climb out of this concrete platform, and there are little cracks in it. Me, of course, I always like to say that if you're educated on all the possibilities that could go wrong and prepared, you're set. Obviously, maybe we're not the greatest adventurers. No, not the greatest. We are the greatest, but we're not the most prepared adventurers ever. I'll put it that way. So, me not knowing that much about sea urchins, I see a crack in this big concrete pillar and shove my foot in there going, that looks like a good place to put out. Something hurts decently badly in there. I'm like, what the heck? And I pull my foot out and my toe is turning black. And I was like, that does not look good. And I see like
that's not right.
And I see like rusty cranes and stuff all around me, and I'm like, am I gonna like this? Is this like a rusty piece of iron I just got shoved inside me? And I climb out, and everybody's just like swimming around, like backstroking, like it's some kind of like old cartoon or something. And I'm like, guys, my foot, and they're just kind of backstroking. And eventually they get out and realize, like, what's wrong? And they look and see my toes, like, black. And they're like, and I'm like, is this, like, a piece of metal? I ended up looking it up, and it looked like a sea urchin. Luckily, apparently in Hawaii, sea urchins are not poisonous, so we're all good. But unluckily, this problem was not solved in Hawaii. But basically, at the time, I was like, what the heck? And I went over to some car. I don't even remember exactly how. Yeah, I just went over to back to our car and I was like looking at it, trying to dump alcohol on it. Some random people just like happen up there and they're like, oh, hey, is that a sea urchin in your foot? And they're like, I just kind of go, yeah. And they go, come on, hop on into our car. And I like hop in and they're like, my wife is a great expert at this. So this random family just like hops over and starts like doing like little surgery on my foot trying to like get this out. They end up not succeeding, but and the sea urchin would carry on with me for the rest of the
did it bot? Well,
yeah, it hurt a good amount.
Did it ruin the day for you or no?
It was a bit disappointing because like if you got like shards of something in your foot, you'd probably be like, damn it.
It's going to be a bit of a bummer.
But realistically, I think I continued on as well as I could have because it was just kind of like, well, what are we going to do? Like, I'm just going to keep going on. So I was like hobbling along, but I don't remember it. I didn't go do some things, but I don't remember it dampening that much what happened afterwards.
I say this as nicely as possible. You were Hawaii's punching bag on this trip. You
Apparently.
Kicked a sea urchin. Got the worst sunburn out of all of us.
That sunburn was horrible.
And then could not go to the top of Mauna Kea because your body was about to pass out on you.
I'm telling you, that sunburn, I just got a buzz cut recently, and maybe I didn't know that. Apparently with a buzz cut, your head can get sunburned too. Every part of me was sunburned. And I just kind of fought through it. And the sunscreen, everything in Hawaii was like 3 times more expensive.
$20 sunscreen.
Like $22 sunscreen for a little bottle.
How do you think it gets over there?
Fair enough.
You know what though, Warren? I don't know if I'm secretly a jerk and I misinterpreted this, but I thought it was kind of funny to see urchin hit your toe. Maybe you weren't having a good time.
I thought it was a little funny.
I felt like we all kind of thought it was
It's
funny.
kind of a thing now. Like I said earlier, sucky situations are the best in memory. Now that I don't have a sea urchin in my foot, it's hilarious. If something else had happened, maybe I wouldn't think it was hilarious, but it didn't, so I don't really care.
I also think just the fact that family like saw you were kind of struggling and then took her
that was
out,
funny.
I
Yeah.
think that just is another like testament to the culture in Hawaii about how everyone is just so nice and helpful there. Again, random family just sees him struggling. It's like, oh, to my car. We're gonna perform surgery on your toe. Surgery on your toe.
Yeah, I honestly, once I found out it wasn't poisonous, I kind of figured like,
Yeah, you're good.
it'll be fine. We did kind of have like a whole little thing with it back at the Airbnb because apparently you're supposed to put like vinegar on it or something.
Like soak it in vinegar and it helps it like push out the little spines from the sea urchin.
So I have like many memories at like 3 a.m. when everybody's asleep, just like sitting with my foot in vinegar with like everybody like dead, passed out.
I remember
like,
that. I was laying on my couch and I just see Warren with his foot in a bowl of vinegar sitting on the porch.
I have memories of this at the end of the thing. I just had like a podcast because the internet was like terrible, this Airbnb. So I would get like one podcast and listen to it over and over again with my foot in vinegar just like on repeat. It was funny though. It wasn't bad, honestly. Just chilling, eating some like Cliff Bars.
It was good we didn't have anything planned that day. Day 6 was kind of just a nothing day.
It was the relaxed day.
Yeah, so we kind of just... Oh, I believe after we went to this.
We went to a white sand.
Do you remember how windy it was?
It was.
We couldn't place anything down.
That was Hapuna, I believe.
Yeah, we couldn't put
sand beach.
It was the first beach I went to that I was like, oh,
it's a beach.
this is the resort beach. It was just a plain old.
We did
nice,
have
though.
to drive through a resort to even get to it. Remember
It was
that?
nice though.
Was it? That wind
No.
was so
Okay.
strong.
It was
It
made
was
the
pretty.
sand
It was
stick.
pretty. It was pretty.
I think what may have happened, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think that white sand was not naturally there, and they chucked that all down. Happens to be the black sand was a lot thicker, so I had my fucking sea urchin shits. But I was sitting there with all this stuff, and everybody's in the water. That white sand was whipping around at like high speeds, like whipping me in the face on this stuff, covering everybody's towels and books and water bottles and.
Let's go.
That
All I
White Sand
remember is,
Beach, whatever that person at the resort was thinking, fire that person. That was a terrible idea.
I just remember we're in the water, and I just see like looking around. I'm like, there's Warren, there's Jacob, there's Reyes, there's Eric. I'm like, where's Jimmy? And then here's the water, and I see his head go. He's just messing with all of us.
Just peeking a little.
Yeah,
bit,
it was
going under,
nice.
Peeking up like a little shark.
Wasn't there a little cave or something?
There
out
was
there,
a
you
little
guys?
cave.
Oh, there was, yeah. That
Day 6 was
honestly,
just to chill.
Out of everything, that was probably my least favorite.
Yeah,
The
no,
the
it was
little
like
resort type.
That's-
beach
that's-
we found.
that's what I was trying to hint at earlier, where you see all the regular island, the natural island, and you see, oh, this isn't what I expected. And then you get to the resort, which is what you expect, and you realize it's not
This
what you.
this is kind of
Yeah.
horrible.
It's way worse than you
Dude,
want.
that
it to be.
natural beauty, you just can't beat it.
Yeah, it's the natural part is much.
It's more unique. I can go to Aruba, I guess. I could save my money for a basic island, but Hawaii's just different.
Fair.
There's just I told my parents, my friends, and family when I back, that was not a beach vacation. It was on an island, but it was adventurous. It was not a beach vacation. Day 6 was the beach day, but funny enough, it was probably the most boring day.
They also did though have a ladies or like a group of family, I think, selling coconuts that they just like cracked open. You like stick a straw in there. It's like
Not surprised.
that was one of the things that is what you expect, I guess, maybe when you go. But that wasn't at the resort either. That was on like the black sand beach.
And after day 6, we get to our final day, day 7. Well, the final night, I guess. day
Yeah,
and
final night.
It was like our final stay at the Airbnb. And it was another chill day. Just at this point,
Black Sand Beach one more time.
tired, go to the Black Sand Beach, relax. That was really fun because that Black Sand Beach, I went snorkeling that time, and I actually was like, I found sea turtles swimming in the water with me. Now, granted, the waves were a little bit rough, so me and the sea turtle were getting tossed around. But I was getting tossed around with the sea turtle, so it was pretty cool.
It was nice to get a day to swim, though, you know?
Yeah,
We never really got to enjoy it.
Of course, we went back to South Point, had to jump off the cliff a couple more times.
Apparently there were like sea turtles all over these black beaches, and they were
That's
was the big
I
one.
can't believe we didn't even mention that Black Sand Beach we kept going to Punaluu. I'm so sorry for butchering that, but that Black Sand Beach, every time we go, there was like 2 or 3 sea turtles just pulled up on the sand, kind of chilling.
They put cones around them, too. So
Yeah, they would always like have it blocked off so no one was allowed to get close to them, of course. But it was just really cool to see just sea turtles roll up onto the beach.
I didn't see it, but apparently some people were saying there were like little pigs and like
I saw
chickens
them.
and things
no,
like that.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I chased the pig around with my camera.
So apparently there were a couple little other animals, and right behind that beach there was actually some weird little like pond with like a bunch of
little,
flowers and stuff growing in it.
Marsh grove.
Yeah. It was kind of a nice little area. Little palm trees over you, black sand, coconuts. So it was pretty nice. Yeah.
And then finally, we're gonna get one last sunset at South Point.
Real quick. How much are we going to talk about? We got to decide. You want to just go full send?
Go
Follow
for it.
my lead.
Full send?
Follow my lead. I'll brief everyone. Jackson's a little concerned.
I'm not concerned.
They're a little
Purdy's
concerned.
Purdy's concerned. Purdy is our tech guy. That's helping us with this, but basically, how we mentioned when we first got to South Point, we noticed windmills. Jackson and I decided we want to go touch the windmills.
They were they were pretty close.
They were far, but they were like
Nah.
they were close enough that we were like, we can hike.
Ever
there.
since we saw them, we just
So,
first
like,
left.
all we had to do was hike along the cliff, and we knew we could get there.
Yeah.
So we started going. We started going, but then there's this fence.
You could tell it
And
was
we're
stretched
like-
open.
And we're like, there's definitely a path people walk here, but like but it's like, it's through a fence, and we're like, this is probably, like, we didn't see signs or anything. And we're like,
There wasn't a
thinking,
sign, no.
there was probably someone's private property, like someone's farmland.
I plead the fifth.
We're not sure. We're really not sure. But we just continued following the path, and eventually it got to, like, just hiking along these cliffs. We'd see cows, and that at that point I was pretty sure that
Goats.
yes, I'll get to the goats. We saw cows hiking along this cliff, and we're like, oh, okay, we're probably on someone's farmland, but we'll just stay away from their animals.
We were so far away from, like,
Animals.
if there was actual property, though. Someone must
I'm
have
just,
owned a
I'm just
huge...
not sure. I'm just not sure. So our
Even-
point was, we stuck to the path that we saw was there.
It was really, like, a foot from the edge. Like, we stayed away from
we
everything.
stayed along the path. We found goats, which I got really freaked out. But goats are amazing creatures. I don't know how it works, but they can go up like 80, 90 degree slopes. These goats saw us and they ran. I saw them run. It looked like they ran off the cliff. And I was like, oh my god.
We killed a bunch of goats.
I just saw a bunch of goats die. But then we got to the point where we saw the most, and I was like, I don't see anything. I don't see anything at the bottom of the
No,
cliff.
they didn't.
But I don't see anything on the cliff. These goats just disappeared. I was like, this is scary. Goats just disappeared into thin air. It was kind of cool.
Pretty positive they hung on.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. I'm just
They don't just jump.
I'm just
hope not.
impressed that they disappeared so skillfully. Anyways, we continue along, and eventually we get to the point where it's just like this massive open grass field.
It's like knee high, maybe.
It's, yeah, like anywhere from like shin to knee height grass. The wind is just blowing hard, so much so that the trees are starting to grow like perpendicular to the ground.
Yeah, it's like
Parallel to the ground.
parallel,
No, not
yeah.
parallel. The trees are going like parallel to the ground. Like the trunk comes up and then almost takes like a nice curve to where the tree is just growing out parallel to the ground. And it was so very unique. And it was like, oh, there's the windmills. We're halfway
so
there.
Close. Yeah.
We're so close.
Uh,
And then we get to another fence.
yeah, that
It's-
was the real fence.
And this is like the other fence was just like it was just like a little wire fence. It wasn't anything. This fence was like barbed wire. They're like, oh, what do we do now? There's still no sign, but also
Barbed wire.
we don't know if we're exiting or going into property that we're not supposed to. We're just very confused. We don't know what we're doing at this point. We just wanted to touch a windmill.
Just want to touch a windmill, man.
As you do.
And this is also around sunset. So like we're trying to make
It's
it
getting
before
dark.
it gets dark.
It was already. It was actually. I think the sun was already. You know when you can't see the sun, but there's still a little bit of light.
Mm-hmm.
It was at that point. There was no more sun.
Yeah.
No more sun.
And we were like, I mean, I don't know if we should turn back or not.
No.
And so we
too
were just
deep.
like, we
Can't do
couldn't do it. Was like I kept. Jackson was getting a little.
I was very nervous.
You were getting nervous. I was like, I'm a little nervous, but they're right there. Let's keep going. So we get our hands and knees and we crawl under the
Yeah.
barbed wire fence. And we just keep walking to the windmills, and eventually it gets dark. And this is where we start to think that we made mistakes. It is now like dark. We're just walking with our phones as flashlights.
You're stressing me out just talking about this.
Trying to march to these windmills.
It was farther
the
than
wind is
expected
just
at this point.
blowing, and yeah, it turned out to be farther. Like it was still like walking distance. It turned out to be farther. Keep in mind, we also left Warren, Eric, Jackson, and not Jackson's with me. We left Warren, Eric, Jimmy, and Reyes with the car. And we're like, listen, we'll call you when to pick us up or when we're on our way back, where to pick us up, blah, blah, blah. We'll figure it out.
We were back at, like, South Point.
Yeah,
the
they
cliff
were
diving
still at
spot.
South Point. This is a me and Jackson moment. And this is where we start to get freaked out. We start hearing, like, what sound like ATVs.
Like a little motor.
That definitely was a thing.
And
Well, but before we even
This is also
hopped
true,
the
like,
first
on our-
fence,
on
we
our-
saw ATVs.
like on our way to South Point, and as we were walking, like we saw ATVs like in the distance going down other dirt roads and stuff, or toward like in different areas. So we're like, oh, I wonder if that's them.
Well, didn't we also see? We were confused about a distant light.
Yeah, we kept seeing. So like, there is the cliff to our left, the windmills in front of us, and then it's like rolling hills to the right. But they're high enough that they completely block our view of everything else on that side. But we keep hearing these ATV noises coming from over the hill. The wind's just carrying the sound into our ears. And every now and then we're seeing these like lights like not just flash, but like kind of creep over the hill. Like they're driving up. So we're like, oh, we may have messed up.
Oh yeah.
We might have messed up.
My brain wasn't really allowing me to consider that fact, or I would have been freaking out. So we kind of just went prone.
Yeah,
for
we
like
thought,
5
oh
minutes.
no, they might be looking for us. So we panicked, and we just kind of dropped down. Me and Jackson are just laying in the tall grass talking to each other like, what do we do? What do we do? Do we keep going? Do we turn back? Do we just head for the road?
I wanted to leave.
What do we do? So we just lay there for like 15 minutes, like trying to figure out what to do. And then eventually we decide we're going to keep going a little bit. Because it
went
probably,
away.
It's probably, yeah, eventually the light and the noise went away. We're like, oh,
You also, I think
maybe
you
it wasn't us.
think you concluded that it could have been just cars driving by.
Yeah, so we still kept going towards the windmill. We were probably, I want to say, like a half mile out. This is probably my biggest regret of the trip. We were like a half mile away from the windmill.
Don't remind me.
And then we were like, it just got to us. The panic got to us, and we were like, nope, we're going to the road. We're done. We can't go to the windmill. We can't touch it.
We should have touched it.
We should have, looking back.
There were people driving around in ATVs
For how
around
long?
for most of it.
Even during it being at dark.
Yeah, there were actual people driving.
Oh, maybe
So
we're
I'm
never going back.
not gonna lie.
You're telling us that, okay.
But
I want to
we were-
stop. I want to make something clear. Me and Jackson are then like heading back towards the road. And we're thinking, oh, as we're seeing cars like driving down the road, like to get to South Point, we're like, oh, it was probably just them that we kept seeing. And then we're just walking. We walk past some cows. We just walk to the road. We climb under the barbed wire fence again to get out. And we call our friends, and me and Jackson hop in the back of the truck and drive back to our Airbnb. We were like, oh, the ATVs weren't looking for us. We weren't doing
Well, they
anything
probably weren't
wrong.
looking for us.
We were also driving down the road shining lights, so it could have been 50-50.
That was at the end, though.
That was the end.
Yeah.
When you were
But hold on.
stationary, how long were ATVs going for?
Maybe not into the dark, honestly, but like just before the dark, they were going all until then.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Well,
not the
that
dark.
makes me feel better.
Yeah.
This,
But they did kind of go around the area you were in at first, and then they kind of went over onto the right side of the road and went over there. So
I still don't know if what we did, if we were like on someone's private property or not.
who knows,
But-
honestly.
So what do you think? Do you think there was someone there? Or do you think it was cars?
There could have been.
I don't know. I have
Very
no idea at this
likely.
point.
We should have touched it then, because going back would be even riskier, because then you have to risk getting caught all over again.
Well, I don't even know if we were doing anything that bad. That's the thing. Like I still don't know if we weren't or weren't allowed to go.
You're fine.
Anyways.
Maybe. Who knows?
Me and Jackson panicked.
Next time we should hustle.
We went back to the road, hopped in the back of the pickup truck. And this was like, I don't
Getaway
know,
driver.
this seemed like a movie ending to like a trip where we're driving back to Airbnb. You and me are sitting in the back of the pickup truck, looking up at the stars, and it's just like this is it. This was a great trip. This was the perfect way to end the trip.
It was great.
It was a nice little spike in the adrenaline, getting the blood flowing.
Also relieving. We did it. I know we didn't touch them, but like
we got close.
I mean, we went pretty far, and I felt like we escaped ATVs, so I felt pretty accomplished.
You might have. There were ATVs.
We don't know.
I can confirm there were ATVs. I saw them.
Well, we saw them too, but our thing is like, we don't know if we were supposed to be there or not. And we don't know if they were looking for us or not because they thought they saw people and we aren't supposed to be there.
I don't think they saw any of us.
I think it was paranoia, and I think it was cars. I think.
But even if they were there, they were not looking for us.
I think if they saw you, they probably would have gone over there.
Because honestly, like, let's think about it. They could have been like rounding up cattle or something.
Either way, we made it. And
we had our nice little adventure to end the trip. Went back to the Airbnb, had one final spamwich.
Actually, when you guys were out there doing this, it's not that amazing of a story, but we were all chilling in the car. I kind of went down over the cliffside and just kind of chilled my legs over the edge of the cliffside and stared at the sun setting and was just kind of like taking in the like cliff sides as far as you can see and the ocean and everything sunsetting. And there was kind of a little area near whatever South Point or whatever it was called where if you kind of went further off to the right, you could go down and it looked like...
wasn't there people fishing down there?
I think so. The cliff kind of went down a bit, but I was like overlooking where they were all fishing and just kind of chilling there with my legs over the edge, windy, waiting for you guys.
I got a question for you. What were y'all thinking of us while waiting?
Yeah, that was true. What was going through your guys' head while we were off? Because we were gone for, what, 2-3 hours?
I remember at first we were like... Now I'm like, oh, I wish I went. By the time, I think we were like... I think at first we were just like, alright, whatever they're going. Then a large amount of time passes. And we're just like, where the flip are these guys? Like, what the... And then I think I went and just sat and did my little meditation thing down there on the rocks. And I came back, and they're just playing their, like, iPhone games. Like, where are these guys? And then eventually they were like, maybe we should drive up along the road and see where they are.
You guys were awful with that. You were honking and flashing lights while we were trying to leave this property.
And that is when, you guys ended up coming back.
That was so annoying. That was so annoying.
Yeah, so
we're
that's
trying to sneak out of here.
That was our last day.
It was
sort of our last. So, like, our actual last day. Our flight didn't leave till, like, the late evening. So, like, after that, after our me and Jackson's little windmill sunset adventure, went back to the Airbnb, went to sleep, woke up, packed our stuff, and we left. And basically we had the day to kill. And I had planned on getting a tattoo this day from a very well-known tattoo artist named Shea Pelago. Owns his own nice little tattoo studio in Kona. And basically went there, got a nice giant chest tattoo for about 5-6 hours that
he was great.
It was incredibly painful considering my skin was irritated from the sun. But oh my god, if anyone wants a tattoo, I cannot recommend Shay enough. This was amazing. He was so talented and just such a good time to hang out with
It was really nice.
And just doing everything free-handed too was amazing. And I mean, after mine was done, he tattooed Reyes being Filipino. He got the Filipino star on his shoulder.
He didn't even get an appointment too. He was like, hey, you guys want me to give you a tattoo?
Well, I mean, he was there for the day and he was like, does anyone else want one?
His shop was honestly very cool. He had
it was so clean. It was very nice, well decorated. It was
cool
awesome.
books.
He had all sorts of entertaining stuff like tarot cards and like random tattoo coloring books. And then you go over and all sorts of stuff on the TV. He was just talking to us about how his family was like had generations of tattoo artists, but he used to do this stick and poke.
I believe he said he was 7th generation in his family of tattoo artists, and like he got his first tattoo when he was I want to say 6 or 7, I think. Or he didn't get his first. He gave his first tattoo to his grandfather, I believe he told us. I could be getting that wrong, but it was real cool.
He was a very nice guy. Yeah. Wish I got one there. However,
you got your sea urchins. It's fine.
That's true. I was also severely sunburned and like
that was like
nasty at that point, so was not gonna work out, honestly.
Eric also got the.
He did.
He got the Ouroboros, but in like, Shay did put in like a Polynesian style on the back of his calf.
Yeah, Eric was inspired by Anthony Bourdain.
Mm-hmm.
He had a tattoo. I was not on Anthony Bourdain's calf, but Eric got his on his calf, and it's a really nice tattoo for Eric.
The idea for his was like the snake eating.
Yeah,
the
that's
snake
the Ouroboros. The snake eating itself.
Thing, yeah.
That was basically the end of the trip. For me, to be honest, I didn't have that much post-trip depression because I had a music festival.
You're giving it back to me right now.
I'm starting to get it now, but it was such a great trip.
I still remember some entertaining moments on the flight home. Like, on the flight there, literally, I don't know what airline we took, but it was garbage. The chairs were, like, terrible. The movie was terrible. Blah, blah, blah. On the way home, I feel like me and Jackson actually had some fun, but, you know, that's another airline travel.
We wanted cheap because that's how we are able to do this, by just looking for the cheap options. But that was basically our trip. So just want to say thank you guys for tuning in on the second part of this Hawaii little 2-parter. Jackson and I are going to talk more about conservation and nature of Hawaii.
That'll be fun.
Thank you,
Warren. Thank you, Warren.
Yes, thank you, Warren, for coming on. Check us out on YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Google, Apple. Will be on all your favorite platforms. Thank you for tuning in.